I would like to welcome everybody officially to episode number 4 of the Get Her Studios Client Transformation Series. We are more than halfway through the process, and week 7 is approaching fast. In 6 weeks, we told Carolyn we will make all her dreams come true. And like I said, we are in week 4 now. This is episode 4, and I'm so excited about the progress that we've made. But tonight we are going to talk about some of the obstacles that you may face as you continue moving forward toward your dream. And sometimes the obstacle does not have to do with the process itself, but more so the things that you may experience in the process. Some things are circumstantial. And so tonight we are going to talk about those things that may become roadblocks for us as we continue to move forward toward our dreams. I am going to share my screen again because I have everything listed as far as what those roadblocks may be. And then, of course, we're going to have Carolyn step in and share some of her experiences in dealing with some of these things, as well as share tips with you about how to overcome some of these roadblocks. In addition, you, the audience members, will have an opportunity to ask questions concerning your dreams and maybe some of the roadblocks that you dealt with, and ask for tips and tricks on how you can overcome those as well. So, overcoming obstacles. One of the obstacles that you may face is a feeling of being emotionally overwhelmed. So, what do you do if you start to feel emotionally overwhelmed as you're writing your book or speech when it involves trauma? And I have 3 tips over here. One, write 15 minutes at a time and walk away. Record how you're feeling in the moment. You can use it as a part of your book or speech, and enact decompression techniques if you have gone through counseling or have a counselor on call who can help you decompress. So, Carolyn, let's talk about this. Everything is centered around you. And these are some of the things that we talked about in this week's coaching sessions about feeling emotionally overwhelmed. Will you share with the people what you were personally experiencing?
As we were talking about this topic, having to rehash the details and not just rehashing them, that's actually going into details because these are things that you sweep under the rug or you put them behind you, and you really don't want to remember those things. But when I started feeling that way, I kept hearing it's not about me. It's
Mm.
it's about the souls that need to be helped, those people that needs to be helped. And then the encouragement from you and just reiterating self-care.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you've gone through counseling, the counselors often give you decompression techniques, things that'll help you get through the process as you're thinking about that trauma. It can be doing a particular activity, but if you are experiencing overwhelm in the process, it is important for you to pause and decompress, walk away, even because you don't want to become so emotionally overwhelmed that you cannot continue the process. And I've had that happen with a client before where they felt so emotionally overwhelmed that they just could not continue with the process, and it stalled their writing journey. So it's important that you are implementing self-care techniques for yourself. We don't want you to be emotionally distraught. I continue to remember this story of this lady who has this powerful story of overcoming. But one of the things that she said what happened was she would get on stage, she would tell a story, share the trauma that she went through and the things that she was doing as a result. But every time afterwards, she would go in her car to her car and just boohoo cry. And she just cried, cried, cried. In those situations, I don't think she was really ready to share her story because every time she's crying afterwards. And so you have to create the right atmosphere for you, for yourself, and you know what that is, and your counselor knows what that is. And so if you're having those types of episodes, I strongly recommend going through counseling or having a counselor on call, or at the very least take about 15 minutes, write, and then just walk away and give yourself time to naturally decompress. Sometimes you may experience lack of support. So, what do you do if your family, friends, or the people you expect to support you do not show support? And here are my tips. Express your desires to those you wish to support you, but if they do not show interest in helping or supporting you, move on to others. Or connect with others going through or those who have gone through the process. Social media groups can provide excellent support systems. And what I say to this particular tip is you don't want to keep going back to the same people over and over again if they're not showing you support, because it can be very discouraging, because in your mind you're asking questions about why are they not supporting me. I thought they believed in me. And like I said, you can feel discouraged in the process, and you don't want to get discouraged in the process. You want to stay enthused. So it's important to surround yourself with people who would be enthused for you. And oftentimes it's not the people who are familiar with our lives, it's the people who are strangers that are not familiar, because the people in our lives often judge us or remember our past or question whether or not we can really do it, and we're just not going to receive that support. Carolyn, can you speak to your experience concerning that?
Actually, I don't have any. I don't have anybody that is per se unsupportive as far as saying don't do it. Because, and I can understand why, if it's family members, because you're unearthing secrets.
Mm.
So, but I haven't been met with that. I talked to my sister, one of my sisters, and the only thing she can keep saying is wow. You know, I guess it's impressive to her for me to open up to the degree that I'm opening up. But one thing that the Holy Spirit told me several years ago, if it's something that you're still hiding, you're still ashamed of, the enemy has a foothold. He can use that against you. And I don't want to give him no help in holding anything over my head.
And remember, support can come in many different ways. You can have people who support you emotionally, you have people who can support you financially, you can have people who support you by physically being there for you. But I love that you have built up a great support system, that people around you are encouraging you to continue moving forward. Unfortunately, everybody don't have that type of support system, and it can be very discouraging. And once again, we want you to stay excited and encouraged about the process, because if you're writing a book, if you are trying to create your social media presence so it can have an impact on people or build your business, that is something that is significant and important and a part of changing people's lives. So we want you to keep going forward in that. We want to go to our next obstacle you may face. That obstacle is lack of funding. What if you do not have the funding to complete your project or start running low on funds? And I give 3 tips here. If you want to complete your goal, consider what you can sacrifice. Can you give up your $10 a day lunch habit, cable for the month, or redirect money from a different project? Sometimes you can fundraise, and sometimes you can ask for financing. I see people at Starbucks all the time and they say, "Oh, I don't have the money to do what I really want to do." You have the money. It's just about how you're directing that money. And sometimes we're not even conscious about the amount of money we're spending on daily habits. And I hear people say, "Oh, I gotta have my coffee. I don't have my coffee." But what do you want more? Do you want that coffee more? Or do you want your dream more? And those are some of the things that you have to think about as you continue to move forward. What is going to be in your best interest long term? One of the things that we do as a company, we offer financing for people who want to complete their projects. A lot of times people don't even know that that's an option. But if you receive financing on the front end, it can just relieve some of the worry that you may have in the process. And then you can make up the money on the back end through your sales and your appearances. And also going back to the fundraising aspect of things, I keep thinking back to the lady who had the apple pie store. who sold the apple pies to raise money for her dream, what she needed to do was what for her mortgage. So I say take whatever it is that you have that you're naturally gifted in and make money off of it to fund your dream. That is so important. Carolyn, do you want to speak to that?
One thing that I'm thinking about, we do what we want to do. So if there's something that we truly want to do, you don't have to convince them. You don't even have to try to give them ideas because they are already formulating in their minds what they can do. The thing is that how bad do you want it? If you want it bad enough, you'll make a way. Like you said, if you got to do a GoFundMe or you got to go around to family and say, hey, can you give me so and so, so and so? I haven't done that. Um, I don't expect to do it, but I'm not going to count it out. Right now, I'm formulating in my mind, what do I need to do if the time comes around, around where I need to send some money. And so I'm already thinking about that now. What can I do to do that? Because this is important. This is going to change the rest of my life. And I already made a promise to myself when I turned 50. I said, Lord, I want the next decade or next decades to be totally different from the previous. So I knew I had to make some different moves, some different choices, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, I think the key that you hit on is all about the attitude that you take toward your dream. If you really want it, you will start working toward it. And I often tell people, take small steps. You don't have to take big leaps, even if it comes down to you saving money every week. If you just put $10 aside a week, that's your consciously saying to your consciously saying to yourself, I am working toward my dream. You're taking some type of action to move toward your dream. But if you're not doing anything and you're just sitting around talking about it, yeah, it's going to remain a dream. We strongly encourage people to start working toward their dreams, even if it's in incremental steps, even if it's $10 a week, $20 a week, start doing those things so that you can move forward. One of the things that we talked about in this week's session with Carolyn is we're setting up her coaching packages and remind people about your coaching package price.
I desire to have high ticket coaching items um, for those professional Christians, for those professionals who endeavor to put their mental health or mental wellness first, and those who looking for their purpose. Because we can go through life, we can walk through life and be unfulfilled. And so my coaching packages are for those people. And so it's a mind shift transformation. I endeavor to have three different packages. So one is 5,000, the other one is 8,500, and the other one is 10 grand. And I plan to have a suite of services. So I will have some lower ticket items. I definitely want to tap into the higher end of it.
And one of the ideas we introduced to Carolyn this week is hosting classes, because within her community, there may be people who are interested in her services, but they can't necessarily afford her services. So we were talking about how to host classes and so that she can still get the same type of pricing. And those people can start setting aside money to move toward the higher level coaching packages. So there are many different ways that you can consider how to get it what it is that you want. You just got to be willing to do the work and step out there on faith to grab a hold of what is available to you. Don't knock yourself out of the race before you look at what opportunities are actually available. All right, we're going to move on to our next obstacle. And that obstacle is the lack of understanding concerning the process. What do I do if I don't know how to complete my goal? And these are my 4 tips. Seek out professional help. Go to free and paid opportunities that can teach you the process. Study what others are already doing, or sometimes you may find yourself having to create your own process. That issue came up this week because Carolyn was stating that she didn't know how a coaching package looked. And a lot of people are not readily giving away their coaching packages. They don't want people to see the full steps of what they do. And so I told her at the end, sometimes you just have to make up your own. Of course, we provided an outline as to how she can do it, but ultimately she has to make the decision about how she wants to move forward. So, Carolyn, speak to that about not knowing the process and looking for the type of help that you need.
Not knowing the process, not knowing what it is you need, it stifles you. It'll stop you in your tracks. And I didn't want that. And I thank God that with your expertise, you said you were going to help me with that. But even as we were talking, I was kind of putting something together in Chat GPT. And I was like, okay, maybe this is it. And so I emailed you. And I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at it, but I think you did. Even if I can't see somebody's coaching package, and like you said, I may have to just, because I might just have to go on my own process because it is mine. And whatever you do has to be unique for you. So I'm almost putting it to rest, the fact that whether or not it looks like someone else's package, even though I haven't seen it yet, but I think I'm okay if, if it doesn't look like somebody else's package.
Yeah, the main point I pointed out to Carolyn is getting your client from A to B. And she's right. The process is going to be unique to each coach. Yes, there are some standard things that coaches do within the field, especially with what Carolyn is doing with mindset, but everybody does it different. And like I told her, with our book writing process, I have a 50-step process, and I don't reveal that to anybody because my process shows how we get people to the Amazon bestseller list. That's just our unique feature. So it is hard to sometimes engage with other coaches, but there are people who are willing to share. And if they are willing to share, ask them for it. I say, don't be shy. Sometimes we feel like, like we have to know it all, but it is important that we are being educated along and staying humble enough to be able to be educated in the process. I don't like to type, or I can't because of my circumstances. What if I cannot type out my book, speech, etc., due to time, illness, or inconvenience? And these are my tips. Record using your phone, laptop, Zoom, etc. Let the computer transcribe your recording. Keep a notebook nearby to jot down thoughts. Later, expand on those thoughts by recording and following up with transcribing. Bonus tip on what to use to transcribe. And I say on here that this is not sponsored. I'm just going to share with you how we do it. Sometimes it's just simply not going to be convenient for you to type out the idea that you're having in the moment. Or I had one client who became ill and she had to just rest. And I told her, I said, hey, take out your phone and start recording yourself. Just talk while you're laying down and resting, and we'll make sure it gets transcribed. Now, the bonus tip is all of our recordings that we have, especially the ones that we do through Zoom. And Carolyn has experiences where we've recorded her and we have utilized Word. Word has a transcription option. And so we just play the video and it transcribes what is being said. So you don't, if you can't type it out on your laptop, or you're not able to write it out in the traditional sense, or maybe you are facing some type of circumstance, like some people who have like ADHD or other learning disabilities, they don't feel comfortable typing it out, or it takes them a long time. Utilize your voice and talk it out, and then have the computer transcribe it. You can always go back and put it in order and edit and rearrange it however you want to do it. But use your voice to go ahead and tell your story. Whether you're writing a book, whether or not you're creating, writing out your speech, or even if you have business ideas, just record yourself talking about it, and then go back and then format it in the way that you desire. Carolyn, would you like to speak to that?
Those are ideas that I never thought about, just recording myself. What I will definitely try them. I'll keep them in mind just in case I do get to the point where I just can't do anything. But I'm addicted to Chat GPT, so I just throw my thoughts. I throw my thoughts into Chat GPT and I give it the necessary prompts, and then it just spits out what I need. I just copy and paste it into Grammarly, and then Grammarly cleans it up, and I'm spoiled.
One of the things we talked about was the fact that she said sometimes you're riding in the car and you have things that come to you. And I told
Mm,
her, when you're riding the car, take out your phone and hit the record button and start
mm.
recording yourself, so you will not forget what it is that you were thinking about. So it's things to think about, just ways to help us become more efficient, which is another tip that we're going to talk about in just a bit. Our next tip is lack of time to write. I don't have time to write. What should I do? I say, set aside a specific time per day to write, even if it's only 15 minutes. Write as much as you can in that 15 minutes and walk away. Determine where you have the most privacy, even if you're in the shower. Again, turn on your recording device and just talk. Also, you are allowed to set boundaries with other people so you can create the space you need so you do have the time to write. Sometimes it just comes down to, I know parents are super busy and they say, "Oh, I can't even get time to myself in the restroom." But there is some specific time that you have to yourself usually. And then just turn on your recording device and talk out whatever it is that you're working on, whether it's you're writing your book, whether you're writing your speech, or you're building your business. And this is actually a technique that we utilize with Carolyn. I was telling her, I said, just write for 15 minutes and then walk away. Write for 15 minutes and walk away. I say, keep doing that until you have what it is that you need. Carolyn, will you speak to that? Yeah.
For me, I did do that, especially since I'm writing about past trauma. I had to jot some things down and walk away because, like I said, rehashing these things that happened to me is bringing up those old emotions, and even to the point where some tears fell. But those are not the same tears that I cried back then. These are tears of joy and overcoming. Um, but I have to remind myself it's not about me. This is what the Lord called me to do, and all of the obstacles and distractions and things that are happening, all I can do is just sit back and smile, because it's like, wow, the enemy does not want this to come forth. I mean, he's fighting tooth and nail. I mean, he's all in the computers and everything. But I have to remind myself it's not about me. And this is a part of my healing, being able to talk about it and get it out, and knowing that it's going to touch at least one other person. That's all I care about.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you for sharing that. It's just important. We want to keep the progress going. And sometimes some people can't sit for hours and hours and just write. I have my moments where if I am focused in on an idea, I can sit down for 3 or 4 hours and just write, write, write. But other times I just simply don't have the time. And so writing a little bit at a time helps me continue to move toward the goal that I have. All right, going on to our next obstacle, inefficiency. How do we become more efficient? For example, how do you use social media and other sites efficient to create efficiency? And I have on here a bonus. What tools do we use to help us stay efficient? And this is not sponsored, and I'll share that in a minute. But the tips that I have is determine precisely what you want to do first. For example, if you wish to pre-schedule posts for a month, look at what tools you already utilize that can provide that service. And if you don't have a tool, explore the possibilities, ask others what they are using. Don't be shy about becoming educated. So efficiency. Carolyn she's doing being really, really great at. I love how she's utilizing Canva and their connection to social media so she can go ahead and schedule out her social media posts. And what we utilize is some of those same features so that we can continue progressing without it hindering our day. So, for example, with Facebook, you can schedule up to 11 weeks worth of posts. Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter, you can schedule up to several posts months in advance. Those are some things that you can use so you can go ahead and schedule posts and not be worried about, am I going to get the post out on time? Sometimes we take 30 days worth of posts and we switch them up, and maybe we'll focus on one particular idea for the month and we hash out all those posts and then we just schedule them out. Some of the other tools that we utilize for efficiency purposes is, and this is going to be important for Carolyn, we already started talking about this, is when you start having clients or speaking engagements, you need a calendar system that is going to work for you. One of the calendar systems that we utilize is Calendly, because we have different divisions and I'm meeting with different people for various reasons. Every day, sometimes we're having podcast recordings. Of course, we have meetings with our clients like Carolyn and other things. And so everything is on Calendly. So you give that link to the people that you want to have a meeting with, and they go schedule the times that work best for them. And that's also within your schedule, so you don't have to worry about it being outside of your usual office hours. People can just go to that calendar. But there are so many tools out there that can help you become efficient. And efficiency can help build your business. Inefficiency will kill your business. For example, if you start getting in too many clients and you don't have a calendar system, you can lose people in the process, and you don't want to do that. Carolyn, would you like to speak to the efficiency aspect of things?
Even though I don't have any clients now, um, before I met you, my total focus was on brand awareness. And with all the research that I've done on YouTube and reading, uh, your brand is very important. And I found that people have to trust you. So in order for them to trust you, they need to see you. And so consistency and discipline are the two things that I've been working on for the last 2 years. And so learning something new, it can raise your anxiety, at least it raised mine. But I watched enough YouTube videos and I would just keep it on and just constantly stop and continue it until I was able to do that thing. And so I wouldn't say I'm an expert because Canva has so many things I haven't even looked at. But I go in about twice a week and schedule my posts for that entire week, if not 2 weeks. And so I have several pages. So when I sit down and create one post, it's going like 10 different places. And so it's awesome that I can do that. And so I found I do a good morning post. And then according to um, the content planner I have, it will tell me what I need to post for that day. And a lot of times the Lord will give me something to post. And so when he's doing that, I may have 3 different posts going out in one day. So, but I schedule my morning at 8. I may schedule something else at 10, may schedule something else at 1, and they're just going out. And I love it. That's something I believe in, working smart and not hard, and that's working smart.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We definitely want to work smarter because you have so many things to do. Once you put your book out there, once you start becoming that speaker on the big stage, or you're continuing to build your business, you have so many things to do. You do not want to worry about things that you do not have to worry about. And being able to pre-scheduled posts is so important and just such a great part of being able to keep everything efficiently running within your business. All right, we're moving on to our next tip. Oh, this is one of my favorite topics, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But what if you're feeling rejected? Uh, what if you share your story, your speech, or your business idea with someone, and they reject what you do or what you have done or desire to do? And these are my three tips. First, remember that people are not rejecting you; they are rejecting what you are offering. Determine if you are being if they are being mean or giving you valuable feedback that you can use. And if they are negative people, get support elsewhere. That is not the person who will champion you toward your dreams. So I want to really talk about this because I'm finding that so many people just get so discouraged when they present something and people reject them. And I use the ice cream example. And I had to use this with one of my previous friends because she just kept feeling like people were rejecting her. And what you have to realize is they're rejecting the product or the service that you have. And they're simply saying, that is not what I need at the moment. It's not about you in particular. It is just that does not meet their current need. And I use the ice cream example. I say it's like when we go to our favorite ice cream shop, one day you may want chocolate, one day you may want strawberry. Does that mean you're rejecting the chocolate the day you want strawberry? Absolutely not. Today, strawberry meets your need. And then the other day, chocolate met your need. And so you have choices, and people have choices. And so when you're approaching people, most people are not being negative toward you. They're just saying, I don't need what you have in this moment. Then you do have those people who are just mean, just ugly, and just want to tear you down. Just know that you have a choice to walk away from them and that there are other people who are out there who are willing to support your idea. You don't have to stay in a situation where someone is continuing to be negative toward you. And a lot of times we say around family or friends unnecessarily. If they're not supporting you, don't tell them about what it is that you're doing. Go to the people who are encouraging you in the process. But on the other hand, sometimes we think people are rejecting what we're saying, but they're giving us valuable feedback. One of the things that we do for our authors is we hold beta reading events. And in those beta reader events, people read their book and then they give feedback. And one of the questions we ask is, what do you want to see more of? What is it that you may um, maybe don't like about the book? It's not that they're rejecting what the author is saying. They're just saying, I need more of this. And if you add that aspect to the book, guess what? They're going to be a buyer of your book, most likely. And so, Carolyn, speak to that about the rejection as you've gone through the process. I know you have a great support system, but there have been other times in your life where people have seemingly rejected you. Just speak to that for a moment.
That was a huge part of my life, rejection, abandonment. Um, you can't help but to take it um, to heart because you don't know any better. But now that I'm on the other side of the mountain, rejection is not the end all. In my research, when it comes to business, uh, I'm I'm not for everybody. The content that I'm writing is not for everybody. And then I found out that you need to niche down. So it is not good to go after everybody because at that point you're spinning your wheels. Um, and so when you can niche down and find out who you are speaking to, then your marketing will you will create it where it'll go directly to them. So I'm not going, as of right now, I haven't encountered anyone that quote unquote rejected me, but I do feel that it's coming. I may have somebody that will come to me and it's like later on when they read my book and say, how could you even do that? But I'm gonna give them the same answer. It's not about me. It's time to release. And this is another form of releasing is by telling my story. if I got to, it was a process. I began to tell it to my therapist. And then once, and actually began to tell it to the Lord and then to my therapist, and then began to tell my testimony to other women. There were people I grew up with, and when I began to give them tidbits of my past, it was like, we never knew. You
Mhm.
didn't look like it. So I'm okay with the fact of rejection is coming because they rejected Jesus. So I'm okay with it. But I do need for people to know that it's rejection is lurking around the corner. You have to decide whether or not are you going to use that rejection as a fuel to keep going, or are you going to just let it continue to stifle you to the point where you'll never realize your dream.
And I'm going to speak to it, rejection, one more time, because people, they're not rejecting you. What they're rejecting is when if you come to them with a tough subject, sometimes it's hard for people to face their own traumas, and you're bringing that up for them. And so they're not, again, I would say they're not rejecting you. They are rejecting the time frame in which they want to deal with their own personal issues. It's not you. And so it's important, and for me, I look at it's important that we recognize that is not personal. It's just whatever that person's preference is at that time. Because if we keep receiving rejection and saying it's us, it's us, it's us, then that's going to bring us down. That's going to plant negative seeds inside of us. But if we have the mindset already, that, hey, they're not rejecting me, they're just rejecting what I'm trying to give in this moment, then we won't take it as personal. And then it won't stifle our growth or stifle us in moving forward, because we have to continue moving forward for us, regardless of what other people feel, think, or say. It is important that we continue moving forward toward our dreams. All right, we're almost to the end of our tips and about how to deal with some of these obstacles. And this is about writing mistakes. And one of the things that I often find is that, especially with beginner writers, they try to edit their book while they are writing. My tip: absolutely do not edit while you write. Brain dump, rearrange after you brain dump, walk away from it for at least a day after you have completed it, and return and start editing with fresh eyes. Let the computer edit for you using Word. You edit it, and then let a friend edit it, and then let a professional edit. But do not edit while you're writing, because that can hinder your progress and as you move forward. Whether it's your book or your speech, you don't want to try to edit in the process. Carolyn, you want to talk about that? Because I think we were struggling with that just a little bit, trying to edit in the process.
I agree with you not to do it, especially when you're just starting out, because you don't know what you're editing out. It could be the main thing that that the publisher needs. And I'm a recovering perfectionist, so that's something I have to remind myself. Leave it alone, just put it on there. And I saw the many times you said, do not edit anything. Just and I had to spank my hand a few times, like, leave it alone. She knows what she's doing. So, but yeah, I would definitely emphasize to someone, especially if you don't know what to look for. We already don't know what to look for, don't know the process, don't know what goes into the process. So just leave it alone, and then just let the professionals do what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That is so important. Just let it all flow. You can always go back afterwards and edit, but let it flow. And like she said, there are some things that she was taking out. I was like, no, keep that in, because that can become a key component of what it is that we're doing. And oftentimes, and I've had this happen with a couple of different other authors that I'm working with on their books, where they thought their book was going to be one thing, but the book turned out to be something else. And sometimes we go in with one idea, But as the book develops, it becomes what it needs to be. And I said, don't mess with it. Let it become what it needs to be, because that's the thing that is going to help people. And oftentimes that is the deep-seated thing within us. So do not edit while you write. Just get it out there and then you can edit later. That is all the tips that I have. Now, at this time, I'm going to open the floor up for the audience to ask questions as far as what obstacles that you may have faced or you've seen other people face, and how can you move past those. Do we have any audience members who are interested in asking questions? We do have a comment in the chat box, and let's see, this is from Karen. She said, good tips on writing. When I'm trying to complete everything at once, it can be overwhelming. And yeah, we don't want people to feel overwhelmed. We try to break it down step by step so that you can take it in small bites and be able to continue once again to progress. We do not want to stall you in any type of way. Now we're getting ready to move into our next segment of the show, and we're going to be sharing a draft of chapter 3. Last week we shared a draft of the introduction to Carolyn's book, and tonight we are going to share part of chapter 3. Now, to go through this process with Carolyn, one of the things she told her story, but one of the things I continue to emphasize to her is making sure she had those sensory elements within her story. She did an excellent job on chapter 3. And I told her, I said, I want all the chapters written just like chapter 3, because it was so good with her answering the series of questions that we provided. So, Carolyn, I want you to come off of mute, because I sent you the original document where you answered the questions, and then we went ahead and put together chapter 3 with you and did some light editing of it, so it can come together to be a concise piece. But I would like for you just to pick out maybe 2 or 3 of those sensory questions that we asked you, and I want you to read the question and then read your response. And then I want you, the audience members, to, as you listen to the sensory questions that she answered, I want you, when she reads the chapter itself, I want you to see how those particular words were integrated into the chapter. So, Carolyn, you have, what is it, 14, 15 questions that we asked you to answer for the chapter. And so just pick out 2 or 3 questions that you answered, state what the question is, and then respond with the answer that you provided. And then we're going to give you the opportunity to read the draft of chapter 3.
Okay. Question 1, why were you there? Answer 1, it was an ordinary day after school, and I found myself walking with a new classmate towards home. We had agreed to walk downtown together, but he suggested we stop at his dad's apartment briefly to drop off his books. Question 2, what happened? Answer 2, as we entered their apartment, something changed in him. He suddenly wrestled me onto the couch, his intentions unmistakable. I pleaded with him to stop, but my pleas fell on deaf ears. He forcibly removed my pants, leaving me feeling helpless and violated as he proceeded to assault me. Question 3, describe the colors you saw. Answer 3, the room around me seemed to blur into insignificance as fear and shock enveloped me. I couldn't focus on colors. Everything was a chaotic whirlwind of emotions.
And so she answered all of those questions, and now she's going to present to you the draft of chapter 3. I will forewarn you, the content can be emotionally stimulating. So if you need to step away as she reads, we understand. Okay, Carolyn, are you ready to read chapter 3? The draft title is You Shouldn't Have Been There.
It was an ordinary day after school, and I walked with a new classmate towards home. We had agreed to walk downtown together, but he suggested we stop at his dad's apartment briefly to drop off his books. I hesitated, but ultimately decided, thinking it would only take a minute. As we entered the apartment, something changed in him. He suddenly wrestled me onto the couch, his intentions unmistakable. I pleaded with him to stop, but my pleas fell on deaf ears. He forcibly removed my pants, leaving me feeling helpless and violated as he proceeded to assault me. The room around me seemed to blur into insignificance as fear and shock enveloped me. I couldn't focus on colors. Everything was a chaotic whirlwind of emotions. The room had a stale, lifeless smell devoid of comfort or solace. It was as if the air itself had turned hostile. My surroundings became a surreal backdrop to this traumatic event. There was a couch and a love seat, and the dim light of the apartment cast low shadows across the room. No taste could penetrate the overwhelming emotions that threatened to consume me. It was a moment devoid of any sensory experiences other than terror. The room was eerily silent, like the world had fallen into a void. The only sounds were my cries and pleas falling on deaf ears. My classmates' demeanor transformed from seemingly ordinary to menacing in an instant. He became cunning and aggressive, ignoring my pleas and violating my trust. Fear gripped me like a vice, rendering me immobile and powerless. I was overwhelmed by a profound sense of betrayal, not only by my classmate, but also by the vulnerability of my situation. In that terrifying moment, I hoped that this ordeal would end quickly, that I would somehow escape the clutches of my classmate, and that I would eventually find safety and solace. The greatest disappointment was in myself for allowing the situation to unfold despite my initial hesitation. I had trusted my classmate, and that trust has been shattered. Eventually, he released me, and I left their apartment. My world forever changed. This traumatic encounter resulted in a deep emotional scar that would take years to heal. Looking back, I wished I had stayed downstairs as I initially intended, not allowing myself to be lured into a situation that would scar me for life. What should have been done was that my classmates should never have violated my trust and consent in such a horrific manner. The consequences of his actions should have been swift and severe. I felt a profound sense of shame and self blame in the aftermath of that traumatic event. I questioned my judgment and couldn't help but harbor resentment towards myself for allowing this to happen.
So, how did you feel utilizing the questions to write out that chapter?
The questions really helped. I took one question at a time, obviously. I didn't edit myself, I just put what came to mind first. And so once I finished the 15 questions and then I submitted them to you, you sent me what you and your team did.
Yeah. And one of the things that I tell my clients, as you're sharing your experiences, make sure you are providing them the senses of what you are experiencing. And so I say sometimes the questions may seem weird because it's like, what did you taste? And it's like, there's no food. I'm not eating in this moment. But sometimes it's not necessarily literal. It is what is going on in your mind, the taste of bitterness as the situation is happening. So make sure as you are writing your speech, your book, or even telling people the story of your business and why you're doing what you're doing, that you are sharing those sensory moments because those are the things that people can relate to. I would love to get some audience feedback at this point. What did you think of the draft for chapter 3.
Do you really, really want feedback? I am sitting here trying to see who I could hurt. I am sitting here saying to myself, who can I hurt? And trying to get to the back of the book to see if anything, what happened to him, what happened to the situation. There's justice that must be served here. This is what, yeah. I think in that you had all the five senses activated in there, that piece. Everything. Taste and touch and sight and everything was in that piece. Yeah. I like how that was done. Yeah. Make me want to turn the pages so fast. Not only turn it, to rip a few pages out as I turn.
Wow.
The name of the paragraph. What was the name again? What was
You
it?
shouldn't
What was
have been
name?
there.
You touch on,
and there's more to the story. There's more coming.
Yeah, I know. I touch on that. I'm saying in myself, we have to go there if we're gonna look at the whole thing. How silly can you be and still breathe? You hardly knew him. You just said in the chapter he was a new student. Why would you even set foot into the room? You know what I mean? But in that you had to be in the moment to know exactly what why she was there. Like you shouldn't have been there, but why was she there? The innocence. I could feel such innocence. Make me want to ask, how old were you with that? I think you said 16, right?
I was 17. I think I was 17.
Something around there. Yeah. I feel that there was so much innocence there. You know what I mean? That to trust this person, this, I don't want to call a name, but monsters seem to be coming up. And, just want to go there, That was a good piece. I got the essence of that's going to be a good book. This book is going to help a whole lot of people when it goes to a certain demographic, like around the same age that you were hurt in this process. I'm sure there's a lot of people hurting in the same way, and it's going to go not only to that demographic, but before people from younger people, give them a sense of who to trust, who not to trust. So it's going to be a great help. I like it already. I like this book already.
Thank you. Mrs. Mitchell.
I am just overwhelmed I'm not surprised at your ability to write, but I am just overwhelmed of your ability to be able to just go back and think through things at a very honest level and be able to express it so vividly. That in itself, I think, is part of releasing, which hopefully gives you some satisfaction and release in knowing the power that you have within yourself that you may not have known then, but to be able to write a script, what happened, and your feelings about it is in itself a manifestation of what the person you have become. So I too want to applaud you. And we also feel, and as the other person stated, every sensory quality in the world was there. And so I'm just looking forward.
Can you tell them who you are, Mrs. Mitchell?
Oh, okay. I am Carolyn's high school principal. We have just been in each other's lives for a long time. Of course, she was a phenomenal student. I think it was one thing to say that she was academic and such a scholar, but she also was so personable, multi-talented, and such a caring and giving person. I am proud to be a part of this journey with her.
Thank you so much for Ms. Mitchell
Thank
for
you.
sharing what you've shared.
You're
And
so
I know
welcome.
it's so encouraging to Carolyn. She is doing a phenomenal job. Whatever we ask her to do, she's stepping up to the plate to make sure she's doing it so that she can fulfill her dream. And as due to people like you and other people who are here, who are supporting her in the process, that is helping her along in the journey as well. So we appreciate you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you all for just showing up and being here for her. It really is boosting her spirit. And again, I can't wait till we reveal everything in week 7. So I look forward to seeing all of you all next week. Be sure to invite somebody else so that they can take part in the beta reading. We're going to get feedback from the audience as we go through the book and share bits and pieces. So we're just looking forward to it, and I'll see you all next week. It's time for you to get heard.